Om Jnana-timirandasya Dhyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langyate yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Tina Karanam Pramadam Pramadam. The previous chapter, 15th, ended with Prithvi Maharaj's conversation with the suttas and the vandis and the bards about their intention to glorify him. So he had dissuaded them, saying that it's not proper to glorify when those qualities have yet not manifested. But in the 16th chapter, which is titled Praise of King Prithvi by the Professional Reciters. So we see that even though Prithvi Maharaj forbids the sages, forbids the suttas, the sages instruct them to continue to glorify Prithvi Maharaj. So, acting on the instruction of the sages, the suttas, they now glorify the king in this chapter. Now, one may wonder that why are they disobeying the order of Prithvi Maharaj when he had clearly said, "Don't glorify me"? Why are the sages disobeying the orders of Prithvi Maharaj, who is an incarnation of Krishna? And why are the bards, why are the suttas disobeying the order? And Prabhupada explains that in the 4:15:21, it is noted that Prithvi Maharaj is smiling and in a pleasant mood. So the instruction that is given to the suttas is in that context. So he's in a happy mood, and whatever he's saying is done more out of humility and to set an example for others. However, when the sages reveal that Prithvi Maharaj is an incarnation of Krishna, and the sages themselves are very much taken in by the nectarian words of Prithvi Maharaj, Tadvag Amritya Sevaya, Amrit Sevaya. So his words were like Amrit. The bards, they continue with their glorification. So this is again a fairly short chapter, and I think I should complete this chapter in today's discussion on most of it. Most of the verses do not really have long purports, and again, it's a narrative, but little bit of tattva, mostly narrative there. Okay, so let's begin with the first verse, 4:16:1. Maitre vacha iti bruvanam pratim gayaka munichoditaha tushtubustushta manasas tadvagam mritsevaya. The great sage Maitreya continued, while King Prithvi thus spoke, the humility of his nectarian speeches pleased the reciters very much. Then again they continued to praise the king highly with exalted prayers, as they had been instructed by the great sages. So the suttas, the magas, the vandis, they continue to glorify And Maitreya says Muni Chodita. So as instructed by the sages. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the glorification was authorized by the sages and was thus bona fide. So the Brahmins are experts at understanding the intent. So even though Prithvi Maharaj had forbidden, but they could see that he was smiling in a pleasant mood. They could understand that he was forbidding out of humility. He was forbidding to set an example. And they could also understand that this glorification of Prithvi Maharaj was more for the benefit of the hearers. That he was going to ascend on the throne, and the people in the kingdom, when they would hear the glories of Prithvi Maharaj, then they would be inspired to surrender to him, and they would also be inspired to follow his instructions. So putting all this in perspective, Muni Chodita, they instructed the suttas, and Prithvi Maharaj also understanding, also discerning why the sages are doing what they are doing, he does not protest anymore. Prabhupada says that we have to understand the incarnations of God by the instructions of authorized persons. So here is referring to Muni Chodita, that the Munis, they had instructed. And then Prabhupada makes an important point over here, that we cannot manufacture a God by our own concoction. As stated by Narottam Das Thakur, Sadhu Shastra Guru. One has to test all spiritual matters according to the instructions of saintly persons, scriptures, and spiritual master. And then who is the spiritual master? He is one who follows the instructions of the sadhus. And he is one who follows the scriptures. So essentially, the sadhu and the shastra come together in the guru. Ordinary people have to follow the instructions of sadhu, shastra, and guru. Those statements made in the shastras and those made by the bona fide sadhu or guru cannot differ from one another. So this is one of the core tenets of our Vaishnava tradition. Like we use this as a sutra, the three-way check between, or the triangle of the sadhu, shastra, and guru. And this is what actually makes the Sanatana Dharma so powerful. Now, in the Abrahamic traditions, which is the Christian, the Judaism, and the Islam, the focus is on the messenger. The message is subordinate. In the Sanatana tradition, the message is also supreme. The messenger is accepted as long as he presents the message without adulteration. Else, no matter how charismatic the messenger is, however exalted he seems to be, the messenger is. What this does is it ensures that the message remains unchanged. Because any messenger that changes the message is rejected. So the bona fide parampara preserves the message. So the focus is on the message, and the messenger is accepted in the context of the message. So the messenger-centric religion, like the Abrahamic religion, it has the disadvantage of the mood that it works out in is that it imposes on the people. So the typical answer to the question there is that this was spoken by, and then fill in the blank, right? Whether it was spoken by by Jesus Christ or by Moses, fill in the blank. The fact that it was spoken by them is does not make it open for discussion. However, in the Sanatana Dharma, the focus is on parampara. So in an education culture, true education is recognized as long as the educationist keeps imparting the knowledge without changing the core understanding, while adapting the application to the time, place, and circumstance. So because in the Sanatana Dharma, there is so much focus on the message, this three-way check has come up between Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And so let's look at it a little bit more deeply. So let's look at the Guru aspect first. So Guru, there are so many injunctions. Famous Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidhi Pranipatena. Now I'm taking here a contrarian view to make the point. Now in the scriptures, we also have cases of the Guru being rejected. Does anybody remember an example where a Guru was rejected?
Bali Maharaj.
Can you speak a little louder, whoever spoke?
Oh, I was saying that Bali Maharaj rejected his teacher Shukracharya's
Yes.
advice.
Bali Maharaj rejected Shukracharya. Right? That's one example. Any other example? So we have Prahlad Maharaj rejecting Shant and Amarka. They're gurus, even though they were giving him material knowledge. And we have Amrish Maharaj. He did not reject Durvasha Muni, but the fact that he changed the consideration that let me drink before my Guru or saintly person who had the position of his Guru. So we have these situations where the Guru is rejected. Now, rejection of Sadhu. Sadhu is saintly person. This comes up actually in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, when Parikshit Maharaj has just finished listening to the Rasa Dance discourse by Sukadeva Goswami. And then in the 33rd chapter, he says that how can Krishna dance with the wives of other men? He is the embodiment of Dharma. So Krishna is of course God, but at this point, Parikshit Maharaj is considering Krishna to be Sadhu. Like Krishna says, Yajadachati says, right? He's looking at Krishna in that mode. Krishna is a great personality that others should follow. How can Krishna, being such an embodiment of Dharma, consort with the wives of other men? And then Sukadeva Goswami says that great personalities can do whatever they want. He said they're like fire. They can never be adapted by contamination. Now Parikshit Maharaj is even more confused. He says, but we are supposed to follow them. And then Sukadeva Goswami says, no. Don't follow them. If you follow the actions of great people, you will be ruined. And then what's the example that he gives? That of Lord Shiva. You drink poison like Lord Shiva, you will die. Now Parikshit Maharaj is even more confused. He's saying, so I don't follow sadhus, then who should I follow? Goswami says, you do what they say. You follow their instructions. So, so this discussion is discussed a lot deeply in this context, but for the sake of time, we'll condense it. And the point that Sukadeva Goswami is saying here is that great personalities, you should do in accordance with what they say. So Krishna never said that you should dance with the wives of other men. He did it, but he never said you should dance with the wives of other men. Lord Shiva drank the poison, but it doesn't say that everybody should drink poison. Right? So the words are more important than actions. But then there is a contradiction over here, because Krishna spoke karma mimamsa philosophy to his father. So Parikshit Maharaj says that, okay, I'll follow whatever Krishna says. So now let's go to Govardhan Leela. There, Krishna spoke karma mimamsa philosophy, where he said karma is supreme. Don't worship Indra. Karma is supreme. And then Sukadeva Goswami says, yeah, he said that, but he never acted in that way. And Parikshit Maharaj says, but when Krishna was speaking to Arjun, then he spoke about Karma Kand. He said that the body is a bag of chemicals. He said that being a yogi is the greatest. So then Sukadeva Goswami says, but he did not act like that. So then Parikshit Maharaj says, then what is it that you want me to do? So Sukadeva Goswami says, when the words and the actions are in resonance, then you should understand them to be instructions. So when Krishna says something and does it, or Krishna does something and says it, that's an instruction. If he does something and does not say you do it, then it is Krishna. He's great person. And this is, Krishna is being used as a sadhu. This is applicable to sadhus. Like we have example in Chaitanya Leela, Advaita Acharya was preaching Mayavadi philosophy. And his own sons became bewildered by that, and they actually became impersonalists. But he never was an impersonalist himself. He never followed the impersonal. There was a context why he was doing it. Nityanand Prabhu marrying. Right? For a long time he stayed as a renunciate, and then he married. He had 2 wives after that. But he did not say that okay to change ashrams. So when what the sadhu says and what the sadhu does are in accordance with one another, that is an instruction. So this is illustrated in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the pastime of the Shanodya Brahman. So this comes in Madhya Leela, 17th chapter. So when Mahaprabhu was in Vrindavan, then a Brahman approached him and said, you eat in my house. Mahaprabhu said, okay. He said, but I'm a Shanodya Brahman. The Shanodya are lower caste Brahmins. And you're not supposed to eat in their house. So he said, frankly, I'm a Shanodya and I'm not qualified to have you eat in my house. So then Mahaprabhu says that Madhavendra Puri has eaten in your house. Therefore, you can cook and give me the food. He said, that is my instruction. And then Mahaprabhu quotes Bhagavad Gita, Yadadashriti Shreshtas, that whatever Madhavendra Puri does, he's a great person, I follow. So he concludes by saying that the behavior of Madhavendra Puri is the essence of all religious principles, which now gets us to the third aspect. What about the scriptures? So scriptures, we don't have to go very far. We know that the scriptures are confusing. The scriptures are constantly contradicting one another. In the 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna presents so many apparently contradictory. Arjun twice he asked that you looks like you're deliberately confusing me. Tell me, is sannyas better or is karma better? And then Krishna ends up by saying bhakti is better, even though that time he says karma is better. Ends up by saying bhakti is better. So the shastras are basically followed through the conduct of the sadhus. In the Madhya Gita, Mahaprabhu says, Dharma sthapana hetu sadhura vyahara puri goshnara ye archana say dharma sadhana. A devotee's behavior establishes the true purposes of religious principles. The behavior of Madhavendra Puri is the essence of such religious principles. And then he says the famous verse that spoken by Yudhishthira Maharaj in Mahabharata, that Tarko Pratishtha Strutayo Vibhinna Nasa Vrishirasya Matam Nabhinnam Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Guyam Mahajanayena Gathasapantha. That Tarko Pratishtha Strutaya Vibhinna. That you can argue and it will be inconclusive. Then he says, Nasa Vrishirasya Matam Tebhinnam. In fact, great personalities, they go out of the way to present an opinion that is different from others. That's how they recognize that I presented something else. So, Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Khuyam. That simply by studying the Vedas, which are so variegated, one cannot come to the right path. And Mahajanayena Gathasupantha. That the solid truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. So, what's the conclusion? That if we depend on just a person, it becomes a personality cult. If we depend on the Shastra, then it is subject to either our own personal interpretation or the many personal interpretation by other persons. Now, at the same time, we cannot reject the Shastras. The importance of the Shastras, in fact, it's the very basic of one's devotional life. Right, in the Das Mula Tattva, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he is explaining the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Sanatana Goswami. And what's the first tattva? It's Amanaya. So what does Amanaya mean? That the Vedas are absolute. You have to accept the Vedas as absolute. And he qualifies. He says Vedas are that which are received by the Guru and Parampara. And he says the greatest enemy of any sampradaya is one who rejects the parampara. So when one person takes exclusive shelter of a personality but rejects everything else, then he is in a very tenuous situation. Because if he has taken exclusive shelter of that person, if the person is a deceptive person, then his spiritual life is destroyed. In the Vedic tradition, when one is married to another, the person is actually married to the family. Similarly, in the Sanatana Dharma, when one takes shelter of the family. The parampara is not only vertical, but it is horizontal also. So one not only takes shelter of the preceding gurus, one also takes shelter of others who are in the same tradition, who are also either they are Shiksha gurus or they are practicing devotees. That's why Vedic marriages are strong, because the relationship is not exclusively of one person with another, but it's of one family with another. Bhakti Tirth Maharaj comments on this. He says that if one, he says that we should seek a healthy interdependence on these three. It is not healthy to be too dependent or too independent on any of these three. So this is essentially the conclusion, that we need to take shelter of all three of them. If one just takes shelter of sadhu and rejecting Shastra and Guru, then the person is in a tenuous situation. The sadhu may deviate. Even if the sadhu does not deviate, the sadhu may have a mood that is a little different, may not nourish the person. If one takes exclusive shelter of the Shastra, then, as Yudhishthira Maharaj says, Shastra is full of contradictory things. On top of that, it has been given contradictory interpretations also. So one cannot be properly guided by the Shastra. If one takes exclusive shelter of the Guru, then the faith in the words of the Guru will not come unless the person has also corroborating faith in the sadhu and the Shastra. So the strength of the Sanatana Dharma, the strength of the Vaishnava tradition is that it is based on the purity of the message. And the purity of the message is ensured through these three shelters. So they're not an or condition. It's not like it should be verified by a guru or sadhu or shastra. They are an and condition, which is why we went through this, through each one of them. So we said that guru is important. Exclusive shelter of the guru has this problem. Sadhu is important. Exclusive shelter of sadhu has this problem. Shastra is important. Exclusive shelter of the shastra has this problem. So all three are important. The problem comes when you take exclusive shelter of them. So for a devotee to be properly situated in the devotional life, as Bhakti Maharaj mentions, that should not be too independent of any of these three. That the person should seek a healthy interdependence on these three. Now, it does not mean that the person makes this like anytime the guru tells you, simply check the Veda base and say where it is coming from, or call up somebody and say, my guru is saying this. What do you think? It does not mean that. But it's the conception with which we lead our spiritual life. I personally know of people who in the past, they had this very, very narrow tunnel vision. That I just listened to my guru, and that's it, nothing else. And it was even difficult to associate with them. It became, in fact, so much of an issue that it was formally addressed in ISKCON. Now there is this disciple courses which talks about the importance of Shaksha Guru and Diksha Guru, the challenge of what is it called, Guruism, this whole thing that either my guru, they were devotees, there still are devotees who are, if you're not the god brother, god sister, then for them you're a karmi. They will not associate with you. They try to keep a distance. So these are things that affect one's spiritual life. So it's not that we actively start double, triple checking everything, but it's that we keep our notion anchored in this way. That yes, we take instructions from Guru. yes, we take inspiration and instruction from sadhus. And yes, we should be anchored in Shastra. And yes, all three of them should make sense to us. Right? If tomorrow I go about telling somebody that you should, in addition to chanting Hare Krishna, you also chant Radhe Sham, Radhe Sham. It may look, externally it may look fine that, Radhe Sham, another name of Radha Krishna. But is there any scriptural injunctions that says that? Did Srila Prabhupada ever say that? Did anybody in the Parampara say that? Right? So that's the safety net. The misguidance is not in the gross form. It's not that somebody comes and will give you something that is completely contradictory. It comes in a very subtle form. That it's so subtle that many times people themselves will not pick up on it until it's too late. Okay, so I just wanted to spend some time on this because Srila Prabhupada spoke about it in the purport, and it's important concept for practicing devotees. I think all of you are also mentoring other devotees, so it's something that is important to keep in mind. Spend more time than I expected, but let's move on to verse 2. Nalam vayam te mahimanu varnane yodeva varyo avataramaya venanga jatasya cha parushanite vachaspatinaam api babramurtiya. The reciters continued, Dear King, you're a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. And by his causeless mercy, you have descended to this earth. Therefore, it is not possible for us to actually glorify your exalted qualities. Although you have appeared through the body of King Vena, even great orators and speakers like Lord Brahma and other demigods cannot exactly describe the glorious activities of your Lordship. So Prithu Maharaj had said, don't glorify me because I don't deserve to be glorified. The bards are saying, we are not glorifying you because we are not able to glorify you. Prithu Maharaj is saying, I have no greatness that I have shown, and the bards are saying, you are so great that we can't even glorify you. So they're so expert in this. So what they're saying is that what we are saying is not even glorification. It's like, at least in Indian tradition, you go to somebody's house and the person has eaten, and the person now says, don't give me any more food. I can't eat anymore. And the person puts one whole bowl of sabji and says, the other person says, I told you not to give me any food. So this is not any food. This is just like dessert. It is just like small morsel. Please go ahead and eat it. So the bards are in that mood. They're saying, you are asking us not to glorify you. We are not glorifying you because you are so great that we are not even capable of glorifying you. You are the best of the Devas, the direct incarnation of the personality of Godhead. And they say, what to speak of us? We are professional reciters. Even exalted personalities like Brahma, they are bewildered by the activities of the personality of Godhead. And in this context, Vishnu Chakravarti says that what they're indicating is that Brahma is bewildered by the fact that Prithu Maharaj has appeared from the body of Vena. Just like he was bewildered when Varahadev appeared from the nostril of Brahma. So when personalities like Lord Brahma is Vachaspatinam api Babramurdiya, that Vachaspatinam api, so even great orators and speakers like Brahma and other demigods, they cannot glorify you. So what we are saying is not glorification. So Prithu Maharaj might say that if even Brahma gets bewildered, and you're definitely not at that level, then why are you even attempting to glorify me? Just go away. So they say, Mayaya. we will still try to glorify you because of the mercy that you show upon us. That we will speak what you empower us to speak. So Srila Prabhupada translates the word Mayaya as mercy. Mayaya is generally translated as Maya, as the bewildering potency. But here he equates Mayaya to Yogamaya. And Yogamaya is mercy. So the bards are saying that because you will include us under your internal potency, because of that mercy, we will be able to try to glorify you. So the purport Prabhupada says that in this verse, Maya means by your causeless mercy. There are two kinds of Maya, Yogamaya and Mahamaya. Mahamaya is an expansion of Yogamaya, and both these Mayas are different expansions of the Lord's internal potencies. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord appears through his internal potency, Atma Maya. So that's what Prabhupada says that Maya refers over here. So Prithvi Maharaj will say that what will be the extent of the glorification that you plan to do? And Srila Prabhupada, in response to this implicit point over here, he says that everyone should praise the Lord as per their capability and realization, even if it is immature. Why? Because by glorifying the Lord, one becomes purified. Although we are unable to offer praise to the Lord in an adequate fashion, our duty is to make the attempt in order to purify ourselves. Very powerful point Prabhupada makes, right? That our glorification of the Lord, sometimes we have this we're standing in front of the deities, and then we think, what can we pray to the Lord? In the Bhagavatam, there are such exalted personalities full of so deep realization, and they are praying to the Lord. So what qualification do we have to pray to the Lord? And Prabhupada is saying that no, according to your level of realization, you should glorify the Lord, because doing so will purify you. So Prabhupada goes on to say, it is not that we should stop our glorification because demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot adequately glorify the Lord. Rather, as stated by Prahlad Maharaj, everyone should glorify the Lord according to his own ability. If we are serious and sincere devotees, the Lord will give us the intelligence to offer praise properly. Right? We see that in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. He could not pray, and the Lord empowered him, but the Lord waited for him to try and pray. When the Lord saw that he was trying and praying, then he gave him that ability. Verse 3. Athapyodara sarvashprathor hare kalavatarasya kathamratadrata yathopadesham munibi prachoditaha shlagyani karmani vayam vitanmahi. Although we are unable to glorify you adequately, we nonetheless have a transcendental taste for glorifying your activities. We shall try to glorify you according to the instructions received from the authoritative sages and scholars. Whatever we speak, however, is always inadequate and very insignificant. Dear King, because you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all your activities are liberal and ever laudable. So this is the concluding verse of the bards before they start the glorification, and it's a summation of what they said. They say that we are unable to glorify you, but we have a transcendental taste. So they're saying we cannot help ourselves. We have a taste for glorifying you. And if We don't know your greatness. We are relying on the instructions that have been given to us by the authoritative sages. So when the sages instructed the bards to glorify, they also told the bards about the greatness of Prithvi Maharaj. And the expertise of the bards is to compose it and speak it in a very pleasing manner. So they're saying that personally we may not know much, but we have been told. We have been told by the sages over here. So we shall speak, and even that we know is insignificant, because you are the personality of Godhead. So this is a bit of the foundation of Vaishnava interaction, that you meet humility with humility. The Prithvi Maharaj, he showed his humility by saying that I don't deserve to be glorified. And the Suttas, they countered his humility with their own humility, that we don't deserve to glorify you, because you're beyond our ability to glorify. But whatever little ability we have, whatever instructions we have received from the sages, please allow us to glorify you. Vishnu Chakravarti says that the sages have, the suttas are saying that the sages have entered our hearts, and according to their instructions only, we will offer praise. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada equates glorification of the Lord with the preaching activities of the devotees, since preaching is essentially glorifying the Lord in a way to inspire faith in the heart of another. And reason Prabhupada talks about it is because he's also bringing forth the real reason for this glorification. It's a preaching activity, that the sages will sing the glories of Prithvi Maharaj, and everybody sitting in the court will hear it, and they will repeat it. And then when they repeat it, then it will inspire faith in the heart of others. So glorification is a preaching activity. Prabhupada says that Lord Chaitanya has advised all his followers to go everywhere and preach the message of Lord Krishna. Does anybody remember this verse? Go everywhere and preach the message of Krishna.
Is it Yare Rekha Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh Maragya Guru Hanyatare Aidesh?
Absolutely. Thank you, Prabhu. So this is Mahaprabhu's instruction on preaching that Srila Prabhupada quotes in this. He doesn't quote directly, but he translates it and quotes it. And here once again Srila Prabhupada, he emphasizes on the importance of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. It's an important point for Prabhupada because he wants us to be properly situated. He says that since this message is essentially Bhagavad Gita, the preacher's duty is to study Bhagavad Gita as it is, understood by the disciplic succession, and explained by the great sages and learned devotees. One should speak to the general populace in accordance with one's predecessors, Sadhu, Guru, and Shastra. This simple process is the easiest way by which one can glorify the Lord. So essentially anything that we do, whether it is in terms of our own practices, whether it is in terms of our preaching activities, Prabhupada is saying that we should always have this Guru, Sadhu and Shastra in our mind. And Prabhupada goes ahead in the purport and says that this process is a lot more important than only studying scriptures. He says devotional service is the real method. For by devotional service, one can satisfy the personality of God. So here devotional service Prabhupada is talking about is preaching. That's the real method. Without devotional service, volumes of books cannot satisfy the Lord. Even though preachers of Krishna conscious movement may be unable to describe the glories of the Lord, they can nonetheless go everywhere and request people to chant Hare Krishna. So even if one is not an expert in reading the Shastra, if one is not an expert in explaining the Shastra, then one can explain the essence of the Shastras, which is chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, so I'll do one more verse and then after that pause for discussion. Verse 4. Eshadam vritam shreshto lokam dharma anuvartayan goptach dharma setuna shashta tad paripanthina. This king, Maharaj Prithvi, is the best among those who are following religious principles. As such, he will engage everyone in the pursuit of religious principles and give those principles all protection. He will be a great chastiser to the irreligious and atheistic. So, 4 qualities of Prithvi Maharaj as the upholder of Dharma are given over here. And note that this is the first quality, the first praise that they are giving. Esha Dharma Vratam Shreshto. That he himself is the best amongst the followers of Dharma. Then Lokam Dharma Nuvartayam. That he will engage everyone in following Dharma. Then Guptacha Dharma Setuna. He will give all protection to Dharma and to the followers of Dharma. And Shashta Tad Paripanthina. And what about those who do not follow Dharma? He will chastise them. Prabhupada says that this is the real function of the king. To personally follow Dharma, to uphold Dharma, to engage others in the path of Dharma, and to punish those who are opposed to Dharma. So, this adherence to Dharma is a core principle not only of the king but also of the Lord. In Vishnu Sahasranam, amongst the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu, there are so many names that are spoken in the context of glorifying him in the context of Dharma. That he is Vrachashkapi, personification of Dharma. He is Vrishakarma, that all his actions are dictated by Dharma. He is Vishakrita. He is born to uphold Dharma. He is Dharma Dhyaksha. He presides over Dharma. He is Vrishapravana. He can only be attained through Dharma. He is Satya Dharma Parakrama. That he is true Dharma and valorous. He is Satyavrata. That he protects Dharma. He is Dharma. One of Vishnu's name is Dharma. He is Dharma Vidutma. That he is greatest among those who know Dharma. He is the knower of Dharma. He is Dharma Yupa. That he is like a pillar in which the right actions of Dharma are tied. He is Dharma Gupa. He is the protector of Dharma. He is Dharma Kriti. He practices Dharma. He is Dharmi, supporter of Dharma. Satya Dharma, truthful Dharma. He is Vrishapriya. He loves Dharma. He is Dharpala. He destroys the pride of those who are against Dharma. He is Dharpada. He gives self-satisfaction to those who walk on the path of Dharma. He is Satya Dharma Parayana. That he upholds both truth and Dharma as a shelter. He is Dharmarthi. He is one who himself is seeking Dharma. And is Dharma Samstha Panarthai. That he establishes the rules of Dharma. So Prabhupada would say that Dharma comes from the root word Dri, which means that it is the basis or the sustainer or the intrinsic quality. So Krishna comes in the world to speak the dharmic principle, demonstrate dharma, disseminate dharma, and protect those who are following dharma. And in the purport, Prabhupada condemns those who do not support dharma. He says that in the future, the people will be so much harassed that according to Srimad Bhagavatam, they will flee from their homes and countries to take shelter in the forest. However, in Kali Yuga, democratic governments can be captured by Krishna conscious people. If this can be done, the general populace can be made very happy. So Prabhupada uses captured in a slightly different context. Capture me, Prabhupada would always encourage devotees to take important positions in the government. He said they should be judges and they should be leaders. So not that the devotees mount an attack and capture the government, but capturing means that they occupy important positions. And then by example and by word, they can lead others on the path of Dharma. So I'll pause over here and see what discussion we have.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I just wanted to thank you, Prabhuji. Like you gave a very nice explanation on Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So going forward, I will come more regular to classes because I was out of station. I couldn't join. But that's one thing. And another thing, Prabhuji, like my father made us to recite Vishnu Sahasranam many times, but you gave so many meanings. I don't even remember one of the word about that you shared. So I was amazed how mechanically we read, and not knowingly.
Sometimes it does become mechanical. You're right. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Nice class, Prabhu. Thank you. This is important class for every one of us, especially preaching, who are involved in preaching and also trying to reach out to others. Because we quite often have this problem for ourselves, Sadhu, Shastra and Guru. Quite often our accessibility to Guru may be very less. So we mostly dependent on Sadhus, mentors like us, like yourself and like others, senior devotees. And Shastra, it's, as you said, is very difficult for us to assimilate and properly come out with proper conclusions from the Shastra on our own. So my question is, yes, if Sadhu, Shastra and Guru, all of them are in same line, there is no problem. Everything will be easy. But sometimes if there is a conflict, then what do we do? I don't know whether I missed your anything from that you spoke. If you have spoken, I probably missed it. What do we do in that case, Prabhu? Can you repeat if it's?
It's a good question, Prabhu, and no, you didn't miss it. I didn't speak about it. The recommendation is if there's a conflict, then you should take shelter of Guru. So if there's a conflict, if there's a sadhu whose actions or instructions are confusing you, take shelter of Guru. If there is Shastra that is saying something that you cannot understand, take shelter of Guru. If the Guru is bewildering you, then take shelter of Sadhu and Shastra. That if for some reason you're not able to that's what happened in during the early days of ISKCON, when there were quite a few Guru fall downs, and in some of the more famous or infamous fall downs were like the Guru started speaking something else, and the disciples for a while were like, because they had faith in the Guru, they were trying to follow it, but then they could understand that this is different. It's different from the predecessor Acharya. different from what their understanding was. So then they took shelter of sadhu and shastra. They basically reached out to other gurus, other devotees, and that's how they were able to reconcile it.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. That's very, very clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, I just want to share something about, you were talking about Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, and then groupism, and which can be very dangerous for ISKCON in general. And in a lecture, Bhakti Swami said that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like Rupa Goswami, his spiritual master is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? And then he accepted his brother, elder brother, Sanatana Goswami, as his Shiksha Guru. And we all know about that. And there is no issue that he accepted somebody else to get direct instruction because he was not with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all the time. That means this is well accepted in this context. But nowadays, there are some devotees that cannot understand that. I mean, they only focus on their guru, and even there is a guru that is next to them, like a Shiksha Guru or another guru, but it's not their direct guru. They can have a problem with that. And they try to stick within their god brothers and god sisters. And then I've seen this also, that, they try to protect their god brother and god sister. Of course, you can protect, but you can also mix with others. And this can be dangerous for the future of ISKCON. Oh, it's already happening. Oh, it had happened already. That this mentality is there already.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's a lot better. I know earlier days, I'm going about 20 years ago, it was much stronger. At that time, it's kind of funny. I remember in the temple, there would be different, like groups doing prasadam time, and they were generally the same gurus. Disciples of this guru would sit and have prasadam. Disciples of that guru would have prasadam. It was more evident, more in your face kind of a thing. I think the guru disciple course, and I think the initiating gurus themselves, they're also strongly making this point over and over again, the importance of Shaksha Guru, because as you said, it's been always there. The successors to the 6 Goswamis, Shivas Thakur and Shamananda and Narottam Das, they're all different Diksha Gurus. Narottam Das was initiated by Loknath Goswami, and Shamananda was by Hriday Chaitanya, and Shivas Pandit was initiated by Raghunath Das. But where did they study? With Jiva Goswami. They all took all the instructions from Jiva Goswami. They studied under him. He told them what to do. So with the full blessings, not that they left the gurus and went there, but the blessings of their guru. So this notion of Shiksha Diksha has been there for forever, and basically re-established by Mahaprabhu. And at least I see that happen more and more now. I see there is less, as the word you say, guru groupism, that word is that is becoming less. I would personally like to see it even less. I think it would be better if it is even less. But I think the trajectory is positive. It gives hope. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu.
Thank you, bro.
I have a little comment on that. First of all, I'd like to share the sentiments of the other devotees on this forum who were just like kind complimenting you for this particular session. I really thought was very important information you gave him. For me, I was trying to make notes all the time, but I couldn't keep pace. I'm going to listen to this lecture back and try to make some notes. But I thought that what you said this evening is very salient, very important points came out. Very many practical points also. I'd like to mention that last August in ISKCON, it's just this August in the midterm GBC meetings, that they had passed 3 resolutions that had not been shared as yet, but it basically has to do with these same topics that we are discussing here. And one is that they're going to expand the number of gurus in ISKCON drastically by not hundreds, but by thousands over the next few years. And it is going to be very easy. They're going to make the rules very easy, but to become a guru. But one of the things that will follow, just like the disciple course has been, so instrumental, in guiding new devotees to, in choosing, a guru, and so many important points, just like guru groupism, was mentioned by a few of the devotees here. But sometimes we miss the point that service to ISKCON is service to guru. We always take shelter of ISKCON under any circumstance, and we serve in ISKCON. It's the same as we serve our guru. But one of the points is that one of the resolution is that they will be they'll be running a very intense course on serving as a guru. Is like a guru course, which will, just like they have the GBC college that they set up recently to train top leaders to become zonal supervisors, and GBC, it's a 1-year course. I think they'll be establishing that. They're working the curriculum like that. So I think a lot of the hitches and a lot of the points that we are discussing here, that they'll be incorporating all these. In the early days they didn't have this, like that, but as ISKCON is growing and like that, they're become aware of many of these little hitches, little problems that may arise, just like a few of us mentioned here. So they'll be running full courses. In the beginning, it's going to be a little light, but the courses will start in, let's say, in a year's time, just to keep a pace, because in ISKCON now we have just about 80 gurus, and that has been there since the 1980s. And there's need for much more. Many gurus are not able to take care of their disciples these years. They have big responsibilities, 5-6 countries, and managerial responsibilities. It's not so practical. So the problem is being addressed, and the answer is that they have to expand, but they have to become qualified at the same time. And that's why they're going to be setting up this college. I mean, the resolution will be out very shortly, but it has just been passed. I just want to mention that it's like sort of related to what our discussion here, but I really thank you for the first 20 minutes of what you discussed. I was not so, I mean, I didn't have some of these concepts clear, but what you discussed made a lot of these points very, very clear. And I have to listen to this lecture back and just, take notes. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing, Prabhu. And I do agree with you. I think that's a huge, huge step in the right direction. So it also allows for succession planning. A lot of our gurus have, they're Prabhupada disciples, most of them. So they're obviously old, health issues, and span of control is very, very wide. So I know in my own case, when I approached my spiritual master, I basically had semi-exclusive access to him. I would send him an email and he would respond to that email. There were no phones at the time, but we would communicate by emails, and he would respond to that email within a day. But now, just number of disciples that he has to take care of, and now he's no longer. But earlier on, he had GBC responsibilities also, and he would share with me. He would say his plate is his plate is not overflowing. His plate is just, he doesn't even see his plate anymore. It's got so much stuff on it. So then he gave up his GBC responsibility. So things are a little better, but yeah, there are a handful of people that are getting on in age and carrying on a huge mandate given to them. So I personally think this is a huge step in the right direction. Thank you, Gaurasundar Prabhu. Thank you, Paramatma Prabhu, for sharing. Okay, moving on to verse 5. Ishvai lokapalanam vibharte kastanau tanu kale kale yatha bhagam lokayorubhayo hitam. This king alone, in his own body, will be able in due course of time to maintain all living entities and keep them in a pleasant condition by manifesting himself as different demigods to perform various departmental activities. Thus, he will maintain the upper planetary system by inducing the populace to perform Vedic sacrifices. In due course of time, he will also maintain this earthly planet by discharging proper rainfall. So, interesting concept presented over here, similar to the concept presented in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that by the performance of the yajna, the devas are nourished. So, because King Prithvi will encourage the performance of yajna, unlike his father Vena, who had forbidden yajna. So, in the Bhagavatam, we know that when Hiranyakashipu came, he forbade he had forbidden the performance of the yajnas to the devas. And because the devas were not getting any sustenance, they had lost their powers. And they actually came down to the earth and disguised as different personalities, they moved around. So because King Prithvi will re-establish the performance of the yajnas, the devas in the upper planetary system will be nourished. So that's why he's saying that he will maintain the devas. So 3 types of maintenance are mentioned over here. First is lokapalan, that he will maintain the living entities. How? By taking the role of the various devas. And we'll see that happen later on, that just like the devas, when they are nourished, they protect the living entities. But Prithvi Maharaj is so great that he will not even depend on the devas. He will protect by his own prowess the praja, the living entities. Second maintenance is that he will maintain the devas by the performance of yajnas. And third is that he will maintain the earth planet by arranging for proper rainfall. So Prabhupada says, thus the proper execution of yajna sacrifice is required. As indicated herein, King Prithvi would induce all the citizens to engage in such sacrificial activities, so there will be no scarcity or distress. Verse 6, Vasukalupadate kalechayam vimunchati samaha sarveshu bhuteshu pratapan suryavad vibhu. This King Prithu will be as powerful as the sun god. And just as the sun god equally distributes his sunshine to everyone, King Prithu will distribute his mercy equally. Similarly, as the sun god evaporates water for 8 months and during this rainy season returns it profusely, this king will also exact taxes from the citizens and return those monies in time of need. So 8 verses is going to describe how King Prithu is manifesting the qualities of the Devas. Here he is being compared to sun god. So just like the sun evaporates water, the king or King Prithu, he takes away wealth through taxes. And when the time is proper, the sun returns all the water as rain. So when the time is right, King Prithu, he will return all the money that is collected in taxes for the welfare of the citizens. Prabhupada also talks about another aspect of the comparison with sun, that he says that the sun is millions of miles away from the earth, and although the sun does not actually touch the earth, it manages to distribute land all over the planet by exacting water from the ocean and seas. And it also manages to make the land fertile. As an ideal king, King Prithu would execute all his business as expertly as the sun. The Prabhupada is talking about the fact that an expert king does not have to be physically present everywhere. The sun is present millions of miles away, yet you can see how it is extracting and returning. Similarly, King Prithu will also, staying away, extract and return. Verse 7. Titikshatya kramanvainya uparvya akramatam bhutanam karuna shashva artanam kshitivretimam. This King Prithu will be very, very kind to all citizens. Even though a poor person might trample over the king's head by violating the rules and regulation, the king, out of his causeless mercy, will be forgetful and forgiving. As a protector of the world, he will be as tolerant as the earth itself. So here he is compared to earth. Previously was compared to sun. So the earth is tolerant, that everybody walks over the earth and happily the earth bears it. Similarly, King Prithu will be tolerant. Now, this verse does not really mean that people will commit crimes in the country and King Prithu will be tolerant, saying that's okay. What it means is that he will not take it personally. That if somebody commits a crime, he will punish the person as per the stipulations of the justice system. But the problem that comes to people when they're autonomously powerful is that they can afford to be whimsical. So the definition of power is not doing what you're authorized to do, because that's delegated power. Real power is doing what you're not authorized to do. And kings have that kind of power because there's no check about it. So if we see in King Vena, he was doing whatever he wants to do. Ultimately, the Brahmins killed him, but that is the power of the king. He can do anything he wants. So the verse is saying that when it comes in that realm, he's like the earth. He will not take anything personally. He will not take offense. If the king takes offense, then who can protect the citizen? The king is absolute. He can kill the citizen. He can ban the citizen. There's no recourse. But King Prithu will not be like that. Next verse, 8. Deveva satyasau devo Nardeva vapur hari Kritra prana prajahisha Rakshashatya ajasendravat. When there is no rainfall and the citizens are in danger due to the scarcity of water, this royal personality of Godhead will be able to supply rains exactly like the heavenly king Indra. Thus, he will very easily be able to protect the citizens from drought. So here he is compared to Indra. So Surya, Prithvi, and then Indra. So I'll send you the table also. There's a table which talks about the various devas and the qualities that King Prithu is compared to. So I'll send the table to Kishore Prabhu. We can share that. Prabhupada mentions that sometimes Indra, he becomes angry and does not give rain. But King Prithu, being an incarnation of the Lord, does not depend on the mercy of Indra. So it is foretold herein that there would be a scarcity of rain. King Prithu would manage to counteract the deficiency by virtue of his godly powers. So later on we will see that there will be scarcity of actually grains. And Prithu Maharaj, he does not go and try to appease Bhumi Devi or Indra or Surya. He does it by himself because of his own prowess, his own position. Verse 9. Apyayatya saulokam vandamritamurtina shanugavalokena vishadsmitacharuna. This King Prithu Maharaj, by virtue of his affectionate glances and beautiful moon-like face, which is always smiling with great affection for the citizens, will enhance everyone's peaceful life. So far, the bards were glorifying his powers. Now they're glorifying his beauty. So he's compared to moon. The face of Prithu is compared to moon, indicating that he holds the moon within himself. He pleases the world by his moon-like face, by his charming and affectionate smile, and with his great love. So it's not that he's a position of power only, but he's also one who is accessible by love. So I'll do one more verse and then we can stop for discussion. Avyaktava Avyaktavartamesha nigudakaryo Gambhira Veda Upaguptavitaha Ananta Mahatmaya Gunekadama Prithu Pracheta Iva Samvartatma. The recitals continued. No one will be able to understand the policies the king will follow. His activities will also be very confidential, and it will not be possible for anyone to know how he will make every activity successful. His treasury will always remain unknown to everyone. He will be the reservoir of unlimited glories and good qualities, and his position will be maintained and covered just as Varun, the deity of the seas, is covered all around by water. So here Prithu Maharaj is compared to the demigod Varun, who is a controller of the ocean. So he has the greatness and qualities and the chief influence of Vishnu. His nature is unseen by others. So Varun here is called Pracheta. One of the names of Varun is Pracheta. So just like Pracheta is mysterious. Nobody knows the depth of the ocean. Nobody knows the treasures within the ocean. nobody knows all that's happening within the ocean. So Prithvi Maharaj is like that. Prabhupada, in the purport, he makes an interesting practical point over here, that commenting on the fact that the treasury of Prithvi Maharaj will be a mystery, Prabhupada says that everyone needs to protect their own hard-earned wealth. Prabhupada says that Upagupta Vida is very significant in this verse. It indicates that no one would know the extent of the riches of King Prithvi. The idea is that not only the king, but everyone should keep their hard-earned money confidentially and secretly, so that in due course of time, the money can be spent for good practical purposes. In Kali Yuga, however, the king or the government has no well-protected treasury. And then Prabhupada talks about, this is one of Prabhupada's topic that he talks about, that how the currency system in the current day and age is the cheating done by the government to the people. That it's just paper currency and it has no backing. The Vedic way was that gold used to be the currency. So on its own, the currency had value. It didn't have to be predicated by the government saying anything. But then Prabhupada talks about it, saying that the government basically cheated the people. It kept the gold, it gave them money and said that this money is like gold. And then later on, Prabhupada doesn't talk about it, but later on, of course, they delinked it even from the gold. Initially, when paper currency was there, it was linked to the gold reserve, but now it's not even linked to that. In the US, during the COVID time, every year the US government has been printing trillions of dollars without any change in any basic intrinsic economic structure, just putting money into the economy. So Prabhupada then says, keeping one's money very secretly is an old practice. For we find this present even during the reign of Maharaj Prithvi. Just as the king has the right to keep his treasury confidential and secret, the people should also keep their individual earnings a secret. There is no fault in such dealings. The main point is that everyone should be trained in the system of Varnashram Dharma, so that money is spent only for good causes and nothing else. Okay, so I'll pause over here and see if we have any discussion based on the few other verses we did.
Prabhuji, one question, Prabhuji. The point of gold as the original currency or the valuable thing, I heard it, Prabhuji, but I was never so clear about this aspect, because whatever the government says, it carries value in any kingdom, because for so long gold is considered as valuable. How does gold place? I didn't understand actually the relation, whether if government says okay, this paper is currency, and I couldn't understand is there any wrong is there in it, or why gold should be backed up, because gold also, if everybody says gold is valuable, it is valuable, otherwise it is not. I was thinking like that. So it's because lack of knowledge I am asking if you can.
I don't know the full understanding. Maybe somebody who has an economics background can explain. But the transition was that initially gold was the currency. That because the country had limited supply of gold, so that basically made it significant for use as currency. That one would use the gold as currency. And because the governments could not manufacture gold at will, right? So it basically limited the wealth of the country to the gold supply. And then the transition was that the gold was not issued, currency was issued, but there was a correspondence to the gold reserves and the currency. And then at some point of time, that was also broken. So essentially now the prospect is there that a citizen's wealth can be wiped out at any point of time, because somebody has been saving a lot of money in currency which does not have any intrinsic value. Then, and this happened in countries where there were revolutions, where there were wars. Even now, I think in Syria, inflation rate is something like 10,000%. For a while in Africa, they were saying, in one of the, I think South Sudan, they were saying that you would have to carry money in a bag to get one loaf of bread. So they would actually carry money in a bag and they would get one loaf of bread because the currency lost all value. So I'm sure there is a lot more to it than I know or I can explain. Prabhupada speaks about it at other times also, that the Vedic way was to have gold as a currency, and paper currency is a way for the government to cheat the citizens because of this very reason. That the citizens work very hard, they save based on this paper currency that the government has given to them. But because it does not have any intrinsic value, it can lose value in time. So essentially all your savings are gone. But if you have gold, then regardless of what happens, you have gold. You can take that to another country, or it still contains its intrinsic value. I may have oversimplified things, Prabhu, because I don't know the full details.
But still it helped, Prabhuji, because we have the demonetization example. If I have gold in my bag in house, whatever changes that somebody does at government level might not have impacted, but currency is changed overnight, and many people.
Yeah.
Actually, it helped, Prabhu. Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, just want to add something. I think Chanakya Pandit or Agri Vedic culture, they said that we should invest in property, that means land and a cow and gold. Because when you have a cow, you have land. You know, of course, today we cannot have a cow, but we still can if need be. But if you have a cow, a land, and gold, this is what we should invest. Then you're sure. Probably one more thing I want to add about this gold stuff, because anyway, you work for the World Bank, maybe you know better than us, I'm sure. And when the currency was invented, like the British, they were going all around the world to loot the gold from India, tons and tons of gold, and then from other civilization, and then they imposed this British pound that has been always very, very high till today. The currency of British pound has been higher, and how do they decide that Indian rupee or Mauritian rupee should be a few cents or a few pennies compared to the British pound? That means in de facto, they have already created a big gap between some country and themselves. Mostly Europe and all that, they follow a bit this because they were part of it. But they steal the gold from other country and said that we have so much gold, this is how much we're worth. And this country, they are poor, they don't have so much gold, the currency is that much, and we have that much. It's crazy. From something that they've stolen from other people.
Other country, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So if we have no more discussion, we'll stop here. We'll see each other again on Wednesday. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thai Gaur